what's left of it. Thank you for inviting me again. I'm going to discuss short duration metabolic measurements by whole room, like similar problem here. I guess I'll go here. Whole room indirect calorimetry as an adjunct for obesity treatment and athletic training. Hold on a minute, technical difficulties. Okay, we're okay now? So previously, 24-hour resting metabolic rate or exercise energetics were determined utilizing metabolic carts. If people are familiar with those are, you've never seen them. Measurements of RMR and exercise energetics by metabolic carts can take from anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes. That's the appeal of them, because the measure duration is fairly short. Disadvantages of metabolic carts are the subject's physical connection to the instrumentation using ventilated hoods or headgear, which I'll show you later. But you're physically connected to the instruments, so you're limited what you can do with these things. The software on metabolic cart does not provide for calculation of the carbohydrate, protein, and lipid oxidation. Metabolic carts themselves are inherently inaccurate, which I've published twice here as far as RMR and exercise. Subject anxiety during metabolic measures with metabolic carts may contribute to additional errors in RMR or exercise energetics. So my objective today is to show you that accurate extrapolation of 24-hour RMR, resting metabolic rate, and 1-hour exercise energetics can be obtained from just a 30-minute metabolic measurements using whole room indirect calorimetry. So I'm sure some of you have seen this, although it looks like part of it's gone here, but it's basically, why do we need whole room indirect calorimetry? We have to maintain energy balance. So if you're in energy balance, this is true. What you take in equals what goes out. Here's the components here. The important thing is that each of us is unique. That's part of the problems in many programs or obesity treatment programs today. It's like a one catch-all type deal where one diet fits everybody. That's not true. We're all unique. You have to individualize any type of treatment or athletic training to the individual. So is there any way we can get rid of this business up here? Hold on a minute. Fortunately, I want you to see that. There we go. No. Well, this is an example of energy in not equaling energy out. That's what it's supposed to say up there. So over here, we have a 400-kilogram man. That's a few years ago, but they had to use a crane to get him out of his house, put him on a flatbed truck, and take him to the hospital for bypass surgery. I had a lab in Salvador, Brazil for a while, and this infant, is 2.5 years old and 45 kilograms. It's about 95 US pounds. Next door to my lab, we have a young girl with anorexia nervosa. And here is cancer, okay? COVID-19. Nobody really knows the energetics of COVID-19. So fortunately, all of my labs are COVID-19 compliant. We only meet the aerodynamic requirements. So it'll be interesting to study what happens when someone's infected with COVID-19, recovering from COVID-19 or long COVID. Who knows? Nobody knows. Same thing with cancer. Nobody really knows what's going on metabolically, especially when you're doing chemotherapies. Diabetes, there's been some work done, but progeria is a rare genetic aging disorder, if anybody's familiar with it. So basically, this kid is about 9 years old. It looks like he's 95. So I had one of these patients came in from Egypt to my lab at Maimonides Medical Center many years ago because he was losing weight and they thought they were feeding him enough. Turns out his metabolic rate was 850, but they're only feeding him 350 calories. That's obviously why he was losing weight. But I had the chamber capable of making that measure where he can be in there comfortably. So this is showing, this is especially showing the potential anxiety when you're undergoing a resting metabolic rate or exercise energetic measurements. As you can see here, the physical connection to the instrumentation. And this is when you're doing an RMR or thermally effective food measure. I mentioned the duration already. If you're doing a thermally effective food measurement, you're under that hood for about 6 hours. The problem is we had a study going in my former lab at St. Luke's in New York where they had to do this type of measurement, thermally effective food. This made, I think it was like 20 or 30 subjects. I think only 2 of them completed it because they couldn't deal with being underneath that hood for 6 hours. Well, I completed my chamber at that time, so they moved the study over to my room calorimeter lab, and they completed it there because they didn't have to be under a stuffy hood for 6 hours. Most of them just walked out. I mentioned this. You get erratic RQ results. These instruments are not really that accurate, even the new ones. So, for example, if the RQ or respiratory quotient, if it's 0.7 1 minute, the next minute is 0.95, then it jumps to 0.8. That's part of the reason is the instrumentation just can't deal with correcting for the moisture of the breath. That's one of the reasons why I have such large errors. The calibration procedures for some of these metabolic cards can be cumbersome, depending on what model you're using. We had an older model, VMAX 2900, and it drove me crazy trying to calibrate the thing. It's a very cumbersome procedure. Finally, unlike the systems I use, you can't edit the software. So you want to change the formulas for calculating say, energy expenditure or anything else, you can't go into the software and change it. It's just a canned system, you're stuck with it. Now for exercise energetics, you can see here yours truly, it's me on the exercise bike, having this thing stuck in your mouth as a one-way valve. It sticks out. Some of the older model Rudolph's one-way valves were heavy, so it's uncomfortable. So you're trying to run or exercise, this thing is bobbing up and down. Very irritating. Of course, that's going to contribute to the energy expended for exercise because you have this uncomfortable air involved. So to get around this, these are some of my resting metabolic rate whole room indirect calorimeters. That's actually my partner right here, yours true, in the St. Luke's RMR chamber. Interior volumes are 4,500 liters. So if anybody's ever stayed in one of those Japanese micro hotels or micro rooms, that's about the size of it. Yeah, you can lay down comfortably. It's air conditioned, but you notice there's no things on his face, no ventilated hoods or mouthpieces or anything. So it's very comfortable for him to be in here. This is my former student in my Columbia lab in New York, in Manhattan, New York. Both these labs are in Manhattan, by the way. A little larger interior volume, it's about the size of a small walk-in closet. And because of that, we're able to put a restroom facilities in here, which makes it a little easier to do thermally effective food measures because it's 6 hours. So when a subject gets up to use the bathroom, you just log the time they're using the bathroom, and you just cut that out of the day when you calculate thermally effective food. Here's the lab I did in Oslo, similar interior volume, and then the one I just recently finished in Shanghai, China, 9,400 liters. So you can see they're just basically very comfortable rooms with TV, Wi-Fi, internet, everything. So you relax. So there's no anxiety of having this thing over your head or in your mouth. For exercise energetics, this is my lab at St. Luke's again in Manhattan, New York. I took this photo during COVID. During COVID, my partner and I couldn't go to the gym anymore. So all the trainers are doing everything online. And we put a phone there and we do our thing in front of the phone online, where I was curious what the caloric expenditure was of an online training protocol. So it was really easy to do, just replicate it in the exercise chamber. This young lady riding the bike here in Oslo. I didn't do this lab, but it's a guy in Israel that has a laboratory. He does exercise energetic measurements. His room is 18,000 liters. And this is actually my student's husband. He is at my Columbia University lab doing a routine on the bike. So you can see, you can do whatever you want, and it's just in this room. I've done dancing, shadow boxing, yoga, a half marathon, you name it. I've done it in the exercise chamber because there's no physical connection to the instrumentation. So you can move around, you can do things. And you can measure energetics of those physical activities. That's the beauty of this technique. Method. So my analysis, I wanted to determine if we can do all this in 30 minutes. So I started out with propane combustion tests of simulated resting metabolic rate and energetics. So the test durations for 30 and 60 minutes. I already published a 60-minute. I wanted to step it down to 30 minutes. So I had 10 propane burns done in 60 minutes, 10 and 30 minutes. So I'll explain later, but basically I use it's 30 minutes, I use the inside 20 minutes for my analysis, because 5 minutes plus or minus for the system baseline. Same thing for 60 minutes. I use the inside 40 minutes for my analysis. You take that 40 minute means, extrapolate up to 24 hours. I'll show you that a little bit later on. The respiratory exchange measures were obtained utilizing the Prometheon instrumentation. It's by Sable Systems International, which I think is really the best system on the market today. I put 30 of these things into service with 23 chambers worldwide. For the exercise energetics, I used a larger burner. So good old Amazon.com bought a Coleman camping burner. Produces 400 calories an hour, so that simulates exercise. But a standard torch only simulates sedentary activities. The usual respiratory exchange calculations were done here. Now for subjects, I took my previously published 1 hour metabolic measures for RMR subjects, and I compared them to recalculated them for 30 minutes. I'll show you in the next slide how I did that. Same thing for the exercise. I have published 30 minutes steady state exercise, and I took that, and I only took 15 minutes of it and stepped it up to 1 hour. So the idea here is basically you come to the lab, you answer a few questions about your health, you take down some information, and the second 30 minutes you 1 hour in the lab, you do the metabolic measure, whatever it is, whether it's resting metabolic rate or some type of energetic exercise, then you will go home. So it's convenient, and it's cheap, inexpensive. So statistical analysis, the usual SPSS. I did t-test, Pearson correlations, blind open limit analysis. This just shows the setups. So for resting metabolic rate propane burns, the 60 minutes I published plus the 30 minutes, this is what it looks like. This produces about 80 calories an hour, give or take. This is the camping burn I bought for exercise. So it simulates exercise, and it produces about 400 calories an hour. I haven't even thought about putting this thing on a track and having it go around the chamber to simulate movement, So you really want to come as close as possible to simulating actual exercise energetics. This is how I made the calculations. Too bad I can't see the top, but so this is how I made the calculations for subjects. So this is what the data looks like for 1 hour. 1 hour energy expenditure, kcal per minute. System takes 10 minutes for a baseline. Also, the subject can acclimate, relax, get his phone set up, his iPad, whatever it is, or watch TV. Then the data acquisition starts. And you see how flatline it is. Then it ends with following system baselines. This is 60 minutes total. So I take the inside 40 minutes. Somebody questioned whether this is viable or not. Actually, the Norwegians questioned this. So what I did is I took one of my subjects that I had, and I calculated it for 60 minutes. That's what you expect, 1,600 calories. Okay, why don't I just take half of it, which is 20 minutes? Same number, basically. So in when you extrapolate to 24 hours, like I did here, 1.12 times 1,440 minutes and 24 hours, you get this number. So the difference between the two is 14 calories, basically nothing. Basically nothing. I did a similar thing for the, for the RQ, something similar here. There was absolutely nothing. So this is showing that you can't get away with just doing a metabolic measure for 30 minutes, even though it's recalculated. Yes, I should have done subjects. But the reason I didn't do subjects because I left the institution. So I didn't get a chance to run subjects for 30 minutes. But just by recalculating it, I show here it is possible to do a 30-minute measure. Now for exercise, I did a similar thing. This is a published data. Stretching more than the actual steady state exercises here, which is shown here. This is showing the person warming up and stretching. This is showing the person cooling down. The actual steady state exercises here. It was driven by heart rate. So for me, 65% age predicted max, I think it was 118. So I rolled it. I actually did the study. I wrote this before they changed rules. I did the study. So when I rolled it by, I had a heart rate monitor there. It showed my heart rate, and I just turned the resistance. So I kept it right at 118 for the whole entire 30 minutes. So they created a very steady state type of expenditure. So same thing. Here's the 30 minutes. Stepped it up to an hour. And if I just took the first 15 minutes of it, stepped it up to an hour, basically same number. Same thing for the RQ. So this is how I recalculated the subjects. Results. Now for the propane burns, I actually did a 60 and 30 minute measure. If you look at the 60-minute measure, I know stuff is gone here, but if you look at the 60-minute measures, here's the parameters I was measuring on the side here. Stoichiometry of propane is shown here. And here's the results for 60-minute measures. Now from the combustion, the actual, what the RMR chambers measured, you see the numbers here. Take examples, 2889 and 2855, virtually nothing. It's less than 1.5%. It's true for all the parameters here, less than 1.5%. So now, when I look at my actual 30-minute measures, I ran the propane test for only 30 minutes in that same chamber. So once again, inside 20 minutes for the calculations, and you can see the parameters here that was calculated. Here's the stoichiometric values, values of stoichiometry of propane here. And then the combustion. So this is only running it for 30 minutes. 2785, for example, 2746. Minus 1.5%, virtually nothing. A metabolic cart at best, you might get lucky to get 3-4%. using a methanol kit. That's about the best you get with a metabolic cart. And these all are very tight. Now, this parameter here, VO2, is probably the toughest one to measure, which metabolic carts do a horrible job measuring. I get less than 0.5%. You remember, I'm correcting for moisture content of the air that's being measured. So that's very good for VO2. So this shows that in terms of propane combustion, a 30-minute measure is good enough to extrapolate to 24 hours. Same thing for exercise. I ran for 1 hour, took the inside 40 minutes. You see the numbers here. Anything here? Second exam, 404 and 399. So very close, and very close to the rest of the parameters. There's no significant differences here at all. It's determined by independent t-test. Now, I took the inside 20, I got remember, it's a bigger room now. It's 10,000 liter room with a larger burner. And I took the inside 20 minutes for a 30-minute measure, same thing. So you're talking about 0.8% difference between stoichiometry and propane for a 30-minute measure in a room that's 10,000 liters. You're resolving about a quarter calorie a minute, which is basically nothing. So a metabolic cart doesn't even come close to resolving calories that much. So in this situation, nearly perfect for just being in a 10,000 liter room for 30 minutes. Now for subjects, extrapolate metabolic data for RMR and exercise energetics in subjects from the two previously referenced studies, the two that I told you before. So for RMR, we extrapolate to 24 hours. Here's the parameters once again here. Use the inside 40 minutes, which is published, which I showed you earlier, and you get these values here, 1900, 300, so forth and so on here. Here's standard deviation, standard error. Now, when I recalculate it, just by taking the first 20 minutes of a data block, basically the same number, no difference. And I use paired t-test to do this analysis. That's a tighter statistical test, no difference. Real quick, it's a relationship between using 24-hour using 20 minutes of data and 24-hour RMR using 40 minutes of metabolic data. Highly correlated. Same thing for exercise. When I use the first 15 minutes of it or the entire 30 minutes, highly correlated. Now, blind noble analysis is the ultimate test. It's the two methodologies, the two calculation methods agree. Real quick, so I'm running short on time here. And if you get a mean close to zero and the proportional bias is non-significant, you're good to go. Mean is just about zero, and there's no difference in proportional bias. I didn't show that data, but it's not to show the plot. So this is the difference between the two methods over the mean of the two methods. That's the blind open analysis. Same thing for exercise. Mean zero, no difference. So this is suggesting that a 30-minute metabolic measure for a human is sufficient to get accurate results. Finally, in conclusion, 24-hour extrapolated RMR from 30 minutes of metabolic measurements are comparable to that from 60 minutes. Accurate exercise energetic measurements can be derived from just 15 minutes of steady state exercise. The key here is steady state. So whatever you're doing, you get up and running, and then when you take the measure, which is the inside part of 30 minutes, you gotta do it at a steady rate. 30-minute measurement durations for RMR and exercise energetics utilizing whole room intracalorimeters are similar to that of metabolic carts. No reported anxiety or discomfort during metabolic measures for either the RMR or exercise whole room intracalorimeter. These results suggest that whole room intracalorimetry may become an adjunct for obesity treatment programs or athletic training protocols. Finally, one commercial whole room intracalorimeter is already utilizing the new shorter duration measurement protocols for RMR and exercise energetics. That's my formal lab at St. Luke's in Manhattan. So they can do 7 or 8 measurements a day at $250 a pop for RMR, and I think it's $600 for exercise. You do the math, it's pretty good. Lab basically pays for itself in 6 months. I want to thank you very much for allowing me to present to you today. Any questions?